You think of yourself as a spectator. When you look at a tree, or a cup of coffee, or a star, you believe you are simply receiving information. You are the passive recipient of light reflecting off a world that was already there, in your mind. The act of witnessing is a clean, non-invasive process. You are the camera, the world is the film. This is your first mistake. In the classical world, the world of your intuition, the observer is a ghost. You assume that you can measure the temperature of water without heating it, or track the path of a planet without nudging it. You believe that the truth of an object exists independently of the person asking the question, but physics has stopped being polite about this illusion. When we look too deep, we find that there is no such thing as a detached witness. To see something, you must interact with it. To measure a particle, you must strike it with another particle. To know where something is, you must force it to give up its secrets through a physical collision. You cannot watch the play without stepping onto the stage and tripping the actors. Consider the electron. Your intuition tells you it is a tiny ball of matter located at a specific point in space. You think that by looking at it, you are simply discovering that location. But the electron does not have a location, not yet. It exists as a cloud of possibilities, a smear of maybe across a mathematical landscape. It is only when you, the witness, intervene that the smear vanishes. You demand an answer. And the universe provides one, but you must understand, the answer didn't exist until you asked the question. This is not a limitation of our microscopes. It is not a glitch in our technology that we will eventually fix with better sensors. It is a fundamental law of the architecture. The act of observation is not a discovery, it is a transformation. By the very act of trying to see the world as it really is, you destroy the state it was in before you looked. You are not a spectator, you are a participant. And because you are a participant, you can never truly know what the world looks like when you aren't there. You have been told that science is the pursuit of objective truth, a truth that remains true whether humans exist or not. But at the smallest scales, that objectivity begins to dissolve. The wall between the subject and the object is not just thin, it is non-existent. You are not looking at the world. You are colliding with it. And if the act of looking changes the thing being looked at, then the thing in itself, the reality that exists when no one is watching, is not just hidden. It is a fiction. Chapter 2. The end of the thing in itself. We need to address the thing you think you are looking at. When you hold a stone in your hand, you assume it possesses inherent qualities. It has a weight, it has a shape, it has a texture. You believe these properties belong to the stone, the same way your DNA belongs to you. To you, the stone is a thing in itself. If you put it in a box and bury it, you assume it keeps those properties in the dark. This is an intuition that physics has systematically dismantled. In the quantum realm, properties are not like luggage that a particle carries around. They are more like a conversation, a temporary agreement between the object and the measurement device. Take, for example, a property called spin. You might imagine it like a tiny planet rotating on its axis. You assume that at any given moment, the electron is spinning up or spinning down. And your job is simply to find out which one it is. But it has been proven, mathematically and experimentally, that this is not what is happening. Before you measure it, the electron does not have a spin. It is not up and it is not down. It is in a state of superposition, a word we use to hide our discomfort with the fact that the particle is fundamentally undecided. It is a mathematical ghost. The moment you measure it, it becomes one or the other. But here is the part that should disturb you. It didn't just hide its choice from you. It hadn't made a choice. If this sounds like a small, technical point about subatomic particles, look closer. If the components of reality do not possess properties until they are measured, then reality is not a collection of objects, it is a collection of events. The thing you think is there, the solid, dependable electron, is actually just a name we give to a specific interaction. Think of a rainbow. You see it, you can photograph it, you can describe its colors, but does the rainbow exist out there in space? If you walk toward it, it moves. If you change your angle, it changes. The rainbow is not a thing in the sky, it is a relationship between the sun, the raindrops, and your eyes. Without your specific position, there is no rainbow. We used to think the electron was like a rock, and the rainbow was the exception. We were wrong. It turns out the rock is like the rainbow. The hardness of the stone, the color of the leaf, the position of the atom, these are not properties held by the objects themselves. They are the results of interactions. They are the The sparks that fly when two things touch. When you stop looking, the sparks stop flying. This leads us to a conclusion that is difficult to swallow. There is no underlying reality that looks like our world. Strip away the observations, strip away the interactions, and you aren't left with a silent, objective universe. You are left with a mathematical wave of possibilities that has no color, no shape, and no location. The thing in itself is a shadow. We have realized that we aren't studying the world. We are studying the interface through which we touch it. The solid floor beneath your feet is only solid because you are pressing against it. The world is not made of stuff. It is made of happening. Chapter 3. Wigner's friend. The fracture. Up to this point, you might be trying to save your intuition. You might tell yourself that even if things don't have properties until they are measured, the measurement itself is a solid, objective anchor. You think that once a scientist looks at a particle and sees it spinning up, that becomes a universal fact, a headline in the book of reality. You assume that if a friend is standing outside the laboratory, they will agree with the scientist inside. In 1961, Eugene Wigner proposed a thought experiment that suggests this, too, is a delusion. Imagine a laboratory. Inside is Wigner's friend. The friend performs an experiment on a quantum particle. Let's say they measure its spin. The particle, which was a smear of possibilities, collapses into a definite state. The friend sees it spin up. They write it down in their notebook. For the friend, spin up is now an objective fact of the world. But now, consider Wigner standing outside the lab. The laboratory is perfectly isolated. From Wigner's perspective, no information has escaped yet. According to the laws of quantum mechanics, everything inside that room, the particle, the equipment, and the friend is still part of a single, massive wave of probability. To Wigner, the friend has not seen a result. Instead, the friend has entered a state of superposition. The friend is now in a ghost-like state of having seen up and, simultaneously, having seen down. Wigner and his friend are looking at the same event, but they are living into different realities. For the friend, the outcome is certain. For Wigner, the outcome does not exist. They are both right, and they are both right at the exact same time. Your intuition screams that this is impossible. You want to believe that the friend's experience wins, that because a human being saw the result, the universe must have made a choice for everyone. But physics does not grant humans that special status. In this scenario, there is no global perspective. There is no God's eye view from which we can see the one true version of events. There is only what the friend sees and what Wigner sees. This is the fracture. It suggests that the facts of the world are not shared. They are relative to the observer. What is a fact for the person inside the room is merely a possibility. For the person outside, you have always believed that reality is a single, coherent story we are all reading together. Wigner's friend suggests that we are each reading our own book, and the plots don't necessarily have to match. The disturbing implication is that truth is localized. It is a bubble. And when two bubbles meet, they don't always merge into a single, objective landscape. They just negotiate. If you find this confusing, you are finally beginning to understand the problem. The world is not a public space. It is a private experience that we mistake for a shared one. Chapter 4. The experimental proof of no objective. You likely want to dismiss Wigner's friend as a philosopher's trick. You want to believe that these two realities are just a mathematical quirk, a failure of our equations to account for the common sense of the real world. You want to believe that once the lab door opens, the disagreement vanishes and we find the one true reality that was there all along. In 2019, physicists at Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh stopped wondering and built the laboratory. They didn't use humans. We aren't yet capable of putting a person into a state of superposition, but they used photons to act as the friends. They created a setup where one observer measured a photon, while another observer treated that entire measurement as a quantum event from the outside. The goal was to see if the two observers could coexist while disagreeing on the facts. The results were a cold shower for the concept of objective reality. The experiment confirmed that both observers could be right, even when their observations were mutually exclusive. It demonstrated that there is no true state of the system that exists independently of the observer's relationship to it. The facts that one photon observer recorded were not facts for the other. This is the death of absolute objectivity. In science, we have a principle called local realism. It's the idea that objects have definite properties and that information cannot travel faster than light. We already knew that quantum mechanics broke one of those rules, but this experiment suggests it might break both. If different observers can experience different facts, then the idea of a fact itself becomes meaningless. Imagine two people watching a coin flip. One sees heads, the other sees tails. In our daily lives, we would say one of them is lying or hallucinating. We assume there is a correct answer hidden somewhere in the room. But the experiment shows that both are telling the truth. The coin really is heads for person A, and it really is tails for person B. There is no third person who can step in and say, actually, it was heads. Because that third person is just another observer with their own private bubble of reality. We have looked for the objective world and found a void. We have found that the universe does not keep a master record of what is happening. There is no ledger. There is no ultimate truth. There is only a web of conflicting perspectives, held together by the thin hope that we are seeing the same thing. This is no longer a theoretical debate. It is a laboratory result. The disturbing find is not that we are bad at measuring reality. It is that reality is a word we use to describe a consensus that doesn't actually exist. You are standing on a platform that has no floor. If there is no objective ledger of facts, then we have to ask, what is quantum mechanics actually describing? For a century, we assumed the equations were a map of the world. We thought the wave function was a physical thing, a shimmering field of probability that existed out there in space. We thought we were measuring the universe. But there is a growing, radical interpretation that suggests something far more isolating. It's called QBism, or quantum Bayesianism. QBism argues that quantum mechanics is not about the world at all. It is about you. In this view, the wave function isn't a physical object. It's a set of instructions. It is a mathematical tool that you, the observer, use to organize your own expectations. It's a manual for betting on your own future. When you calculate the probability of a particle appearing here or there, you aren't calculating the state of the particle. You are calculating your own ignorance. You are updating your personal beliefs. This reframing destroys the last vestige of the shared world. If QBism is correct, then a quantum measurement doesn't reveal a fact about a particle. It creates a personal experience for the person looking at it. The outcome of an experiment is a private event. It belongs to the observer, not the universe. Think about what this implies for the person standing next to you. If you and a friend look at the same atom, you aren't looking at a single object that exists between you. You are each performing your own private measurement, and you are each updating your own private set of beliefs. You assume you are both seeing the same blue sky or the same solid table. But QBism suggests that the sky and the table are just the labels we give to the consistency of our personal expectations. The universe is not a collective experience. It is a series of overlapping solitudes. It is lonely because it suggests that you can never truly reach out and touch the same world as someone else. You are trapped inside your own Bayesian bubble. You are a gambler, constantly placing bets on what your next interaction will feel like. And the laws of physics are simply the rules of your own betting strategy. We used to think physics was the study of matter. QBism suggests physics is the study of the observer's journey through a void of their own making. Reality isn't what is happening out there. Reality is the name you give to the feedback you receive when you poke the darkness. And the darkness never pokes back. It only reflects your own questions. Chapter 6. Relational reality. If the world isn't made of stuff with properties, and if it isn't just a private hallucination, then what is left? The answer is perhaps the most difficult to visualize. It is the idea that reality is not made of objects, but of relations. This is relational quantum mechanics. In your everyday life, you think of relation as something that happens between two pre-existing things. You think you and your friend exist first, and then you have a relationship. You think the sun exists, and the earth exists, and then there is gravity between them. Physics is telling us the opposite is true. The relations come first. The things don't exist at all without them. Imagine a net made of string. You see the knots where the strings cross. You can point to a knot, count it, and describe its position. But the knot is not an object. It is simply the place where two strings interact. If you untie the strings, the knot doesn't go to another room. It simply ceases to be. There was never any knot stuff. Everything you consider a thing, from the carbon atoms in your DNA to the phone in your hand, is a knot in a net of interactions. This means that an object only has properties relative to the thing it is interacting with. A particle has a velocity relative to a detector. It has a position relative to a laboratory floor. But if you ask what its velocity is by itself, the question is meaningless. It's like asking what the color of a sound is. There is no by itself. If you were to be suspended in a perfect, absolute void, no light, no gravity, no other particles, you would not just be lonely. You would cease to have physical properties. Without something to push against, without something to bounce light off you, without a relation to another entity, you have no position, you have no speed, you have no reality. This destroys the intuition of a background universe. We like to imagine that if we deleted everything in the cosmos, an empty, three-dimensional grid would remain, but there is no grid. There is only the web of things touching other things. We find this disturbing because we want to be solid. We want to believe that we are independent entities moving through a world. Instead, we are more like melodies played on a piano. The melody isn't a physical object you can put in a jar. It is a relationship between vibrations in the air and the timing of the keys. When the music stops, the melody doesn't go anywhere. It was never there to begin with. We are beginning to see that the universe is not a collection of parts. It is a vast, shimmering network of happenings. You are not an observer looking at a world. You are a localized knot of interactions within that world, defined entirely by what you touch. The too deep look has revealed that under the skin of the world, there is no skeleton. There is only the dance. Chapter 7. The final silence have reached the edge of the map. If you feel a sense of vertigo, it is because the intellectual crutches you have used since birth have been kicked away. You wanted the universe to be a clock, mechanical, predictable, and existing independently of your gaze. You wanted a reality that was out there, solid and indifferent. Instead, we have found something much more fragile. We have found that the world is not a collection of objects, but a series of perspectives. We have found that facts are not universal truths, but localized agreements. We have found that when we try to pin down the essence of matter, it dissolves into a network of relationships, leaving nothing behind but the math of our own interactions. This is the disturbing truth that physicists have uncovered by looking too deep. It isn't that we are missing a piece of the puzzle, it's that there is no puzzle. There is no hidden, objective reality waiting to be discovered. There is only the interface. There is only the now that occurs when the observer and the observed collide. You are left with a universe that is fundamentally shy. It refuses to exist in any definite way until you demand an answer from it. And even then, it only gives an answer to you. This realization brings us to a state of philosophical awe, but it is a cold, quiet kind of awe. It suggests that the vast, silent cosmos we see through our telescopes is not a finished product. It is a mirror. It is a reflection of the questions we are capable of asking. We used to fear that we were insignificant tiny specks in a gargantuan, objective machine, but the truth is more haunting. You are not a speck in the machine, you are the one holding the machine together. Without your observation, without your interaction, the stars and the atoms would return to that state of maybe. They would dissolve back into the wave of pure potential. The universe doesn't exist for us, but it seems it cannot exist without us. We are the ones who turn the ghosts into things. We are the ones who weave the relations into reality. We are the authors of a book that we are simultaneously reading, and we are doing it in total isolation. As you look around your room now, try to see the cracks. Realize that the walls, the air, and the light are only there because you are part of the dance. Beneath the surface of the mundane lies a void of infinite possibilities, held at bay only by the persistence of your gaze. The search for the ultimate objective truth has ended in a strange, beautiful silence. The world is not what you think it is much more quiet, it is much more lonely, and it is entirely yours.